certainly at the moment, it's the Ulster boys in front by 5 points. Half-time score, down 1-9, Kildare 7 points. Michael.
And thanks to Marty and Kevin for the moment. Back here in our Croke Park studio, we have Joe Bradley, Colin O'Rourke and Pat Spillane. We said at the start it was going to be tight and interesting, and still that.
As we were discussing before, and Down have the more natural footballers, and you know, I was talking about their remarkable poise against Kerry, and you know, although the start was contrary to expectations, Kildare came out of the blocks quickly. They struggled a bit against Down's sort of screen defence, and they were kicking from distance. They kicked 2 or 3 wides, and Down have shown terrific poise and skill. A big difference between the two teams is that Down have pressurised Kildare coming out of their defence. So Kildare have been kicking the ball aimlessly away, and they're struggling very badly to get the ball out of their defence, just what Down did to Kerry. But also, Marty Clark, as Down's playmaker, has made a fundamental difference to the game. Kildare don't have anyone like that who's coming out and getting on the ball, controlling things. And generally, Down's cheekiness and their all-round audacity in the forward line has made all the difference. I appreciate that, you know, the goal was clearly a square ball, but nonetheless, since then, I mean, Down have just looked a far better Gaelic football team than Kildare. Now, we expect a high-octane effort from Kildare in the second half, but Down looked a better football team, and Kildare, interestingly, have no advantage in pace.
OK, we're going to take a short break for the reflection on that first half.
I'm confused. But he was backing in, and he was way in front. And like with referees doing umpires, like they immediately should have said to the referee, spare ball, free out.
Because remember, Michael, after 12 minutes, Down had dominated the first 12, or Kildare had dominated the first 12 minutes. They were 3-1 up. They should have been about 6-1 up. And suddenly they left in the goal and they seemed demoralised, and Down popped in a load of points after that.
And also, Pat, you would have noticed Benny Coulter's very furtive glance over his shoulder, thinking to himself, he's not actually going to raise that flag, is he? And in fact, the umpire went straight for the flag. It was a bad call. I mean, he went absolutely bald-headed for it.
Bad mistake, Michael, and we're not using video evidence. We didn't need it.
He did. Now, in fairness, Pat McEneely did come to the 2 umpires and had a discussion with them after it before the goal was allowed.
Yeah, well, I think the umpires erred badly. They should have advised the referee on it. I don't know what they were looking at. You know, this wasn't a very contentious call. A one that was even sort of 50-50. You know, it was a very clear free out. And after that, Down then banged on 3 points. So they came from a position where there were 2 points behind to 3 in front, and then they became to be composed and much more incisive after that.
Down are, you know, when Down are in possession, they're much more dangerous than Kildare. Kildare have had more ball than Down, but you know, it's all that high-octane running and moving the ball at the diagonal and often missed kicks and stuff like that. And they're clearly bigger than... Down have 2 problems that I see at the moment. One, Benny Coulter's trying too hard in the forward line. He's just trying too hard to impress. He's already scored a goal on the point. The point was excellent, but he needs to relax a bit. The other problem they have is that Hugh McGillen is far too quick for John Clark. John Clark's one of these footballers. He's brilliant in the league. The problem is that Marty tries to find him all the time. Every single time when Marty has given it to John, Hugh McGillen's too quick. So it's cutting out. You know, Down need to be... You know, Down's credo here has got to be economy. They'll beat Kildare that way. Do the right things, pick the right options, they're going to win the game if they do that.
Michael, you know, the difference, and I allude, Down in the first half, Down certainly have the more natural footballers, they certainly have the more natural forwards, and they have the pace to trouble that Kildare defence.
They also seem to have natural centre-backs when it comes to scoring as well, because after getting the break of the goal that you mentioned, then their centre-back McKernan comes up and scores 2 points.
That's the one thing about Down's attacks. Down counter-attack from deep, and they're all comfortable on the ball. And Kevin McKernan scored 2 points in that half, and it just goes to show how comfortable all of them are. I mean, this is 40 metres out, no hesitation.
Yeah, I think that Eamon Callaghan was marking at the time, and Eamon Callaghan scored the first point from play for Kildare, but then he got caught twice with McKernan coming up the field. Now, it's difficult to blame individual players, because most teams nowadays are, you see Callaghan putting in a strike on Danny Hughes there, but he didn't stop him. But, you know, in general now what teams are employing is so many extra defenders. But it's funny enough, Kildare, who seemed have perfected it in some of the games, have been caught very, very easily.
This is the best point of the game, and this is what Benny Coulter's all about.
It's the audacity of the pass.
Look, he just backswing, he had no momentum, no nothing at all. Cut across the ball right with a right foot. This is a class point from a class forward.
You'll notice from McKernan's 2 points, Pat, we were talking last week, and you were right that Dublin's ultra-defensive system looks ugly and all of that. Down are doing that. Down's whole half-forward line is playing really deep. they're defending, but they're making it look pretty because they can score when they're breaking out of there. I mean, you see Danny Hughes gives it to Poland. That's in their own half-back line.
Kildare are having a problem insofar as Marty Clark is dictating the game, and Kildare have decided to put Brian Flanagan on him. Brian Flanagan is not as big or as strong and is not able to contest the possession. I think Kildare will need to make that change immediately to get back into this
And we've
game.
seen very few points of that kind of calibre from Kildare. Their forwards haven't got going. Now, John Doyle will always come up with a class point or two, but apart from that,
Michael,
there hasn't been too much in it.
The Kildare forwards got 2 points in play in the first half, which is a desperate return. It's because, in a way, a lot of it is quite predictable play. The 2-man full forward line. And I noticed today it's not McKiernan playing as a sweeper, it's Damien Rafferty who's playing as a sweeper. And they seem to be out of defence. Kildare have 2 problems out of defence. They're short passing and it's cost them 3 points. And secondly, when they're kicking it long, they're kicking it on many occasions to Damien Rafferty.
You're right,
kicking it poor.
But there are 2 things about that. The first thing is that down forwards are putting their defenders under huge pressure, and we can see it beautifully here. So it's more laborious. It's given Down a chance to get into position in their blanket defence. And the other thing that Down are clearly doing is this: they're saying, okay, let their wing half backs come up the field and shoot. If we get beat by their wing half backs, scoring points well and good, but let's be all over the key forwards, and that's what they're doing. They're all over them like a rash, and you'll see Kildare are game enough. They're breaking up from the half back line, but they're not scoring.
OK, we're headed for another break. Stay with us for more on this All-Ireland semi-final straight after that. Now, plus our big competition here on the Sunday game, because you might be
our favour. I think our half back line's totally on top, and it took a wee bit of time for Callum to get the judging of the ball, but Callum and Peter are giving us a big sway in the middle of the field, and I suppose Danny Hughes and Kevin McKiernan especially are tormenting Kildare on the right hand side.
The lads in studio were talking about Kildare's forwards not performing, but they haven't exactly got much of the ball to perform with.
No, there's certainly, unlike the other games that Kildare have played recently, where they were getting the ball very quickly into the full forward line, just seems to be choked at the moment. Down are certainly on top of the middle of the field. For the last 10-15 minutes of the first half, they've won all the breaks as well, so Kildare seem to be playing on the back foot a lot of the time.
If you look at the way Kildare are defending, they seem to be marking the space nearly rather than the players, and we see the likes of Marty Clark in particular seems to be having a field day as a result.
Well, I think that's been the trend over the last couple of games for them to do that, and it's worked well, but they're coming up against a down team now where a lot of footballers are out the field. They're natural footballers, they're good in the ball, they're holding on to it, and they've got the skills to do that, and they're releasing the ball then when the runs are made inside or when there is somebody available. So, Kildare are going to have to push further up the field maybe to try and turn over the ball and get the ball quicker into their forward line.
Do you think Down can continue this dominance around the middle in particular and in their half-back line into the second half?
Well, considering I think the injury to Dermot Early has proven a bigger miss to Kildare than the one to Ambrose is to Down, and unless they begin to break even in the middle of the field, the footballers that Down have had, as we've seen in the first half, are going to be comfortable keeping possession. The other thing is that Down have never had to chase the game, and in the games that they've been going well, they've been able to get that 10-minute bust before half time, start the second half pretty well and hold out comfortably in the last couple of games. And I think that if they don't concede a major score in the first 10 minutes of the second half, I think we'll hold on.
Just very quickly, Glenn, before we go, you were very confident before the game. Are you still confident they can win, Kildare?
Well, you couldn't be as confident as what you were at the start, considering we're 5 points down. We're playing now with a midfield that certainly wouldn't be the first, possibly second choice that we have at the moment. I just think if we can break even in the middle of the field and pick up some breaks, there is still that threat up front, and if we can get that ball into the lads, whatever full forward line we have inside, I think they're certainly capable of taking on their men and getting the scores.
OK, so hanging on to hope down here.
Oh, hanging on to a belief that they're going to be in the All-Ireland final. An attendance, by the way, of 62,182, and a lovely sunny afternoon now in Croke Park. I guess, Colin, in the second half, this game should loosen up a little bit, and if it does, what will happen then?
Well, if it loosens up, it'll suit Down, because they have very incisive forwards and they have played a beautifully controlled type of game. Now, I don't think Kildare will panic, because they seem to have this sort of mental strength that they're able to keep playing at the same pace, whether they're behind or in front. Now, this is the biggest task. They have been behind in games, but have had a lot of teams reeled in before half time. Now they're 5 points behind and they've struggled badly, and it's a big test for Kildare. But one thing for sure is Kildare won't lie down. They'll come out and give it everything. So it's going to be an intriguing second half. I wouldn't write Kildare off at all.
Well, not